in sheet as they come in, but I want to keep it kind of short and make sure we stay within the hour, but any questions you have, feel free to ask at the end of the presentation. So I'll quickly introduce myself to all of you. I'm Julia. I'm the Chief Returning Officer of the EGC, and I'll let my DRO introduce herself as well.
Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Ganen and I'm the DRO for the EGC this year.
So first and foremost, I want to thank you all for completing a nomination. I know it's been an absolutely insane year we've all had, and this is going to be unlike any type of election we've ever had here at Western. I'm looking forward to all the innovative things that you guys come up with. And yeah, I'm just really excited to kick off this election season. So I'm just going to share my screen and we're just going to go through a presentation. Can you all see it? Can you get like a thumbs up? Okay, perfect. Okay. Awesome. So this is the all candidates meeting. Again, I'm Julia, I'm the CRO, that's my email. It's gonna show up again at the end of the presentation, so if you don't have it now, it'll come again. And then this is our DRO. These are just some important dates to jot down if you don't know them already. So again, obviously you knew that the nominations opened. Campaign period starts tonight at 12:01, not a minute before, 12:01 a.m. You can start your campaigns. Polls will open February 1st at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and they will close February 2nd at 8 p.m. Also, on February 2nd, your expense reports will be due, and then we hope to have results the next day, February 3rd, in case a whole slew of violations come in. It might be the 4th, but we are staunchly planning for February 3rd. So let's just get into a couple of the most important rules of the election, which is in our bylaw number 2. The first one is acting in contempt of the committee. So acting in contempt just means willful disobedience or open disrespect to the committee. That could be repeatedly breaking the same rule. There's a whole bunch of things that could be willful disobedience to what we do, trying to just run the most transparent, fair election possible. And then I want to go over this rule really quickly. So 9.1.2 is a new rule that was instituted this year by the USC Council. And basically what it says is, obviously this year, like I said at the beginning, is different for all of us. And there may be things that happen in this election that have never happened before. So what this rule is going to do is give our committee, in case again, in extraordinary circumstances that would undermine the legitimacy of the election, we can make changes that maybe not in the bylaw explicitly or in a policy explicitly. It just gives us the power to make changes so we can keep on the statement that's made in the bylaw to make the most fair election possible. So that's all that is. If you have questions about that bylaw rule specifically, we can go through it at the end more, but that's kind of what it is. You're muted.
Got it. So now we're going to go over the rules for the elections. And this is set out in the EGC violations policy. So 2.2, fair play. It states that candidates shall campaign in accordance with the rules of fair play. Breaking the rules of fair play include, but are not limited to, libel, slander, general sabotage of the campaigns of other candidates, misrepresentation of fact, and malicious or intentional breach of this violations policy or applicable regulations. So you cannot go around basically disrupting other people's campaigns. 2.3, responsibility of candidates. Candidates shall be responsible for the actions and the violations stemming from such actions of any campaign volunteers unless the candidate satisfies the committee that they did not direct the action and could not have reasonably foreseen that action would occur. So essentially, candidates are responsible for what their campaign volunteers do. And the only case in which you would not be responsible is if you can prove to the committee that you told them not to do this thing, and regardless of that, they went ahead and did it. 2.3.1 states that candidates shall compile and maintain an up-to-date list of the names and email addresses of all campaign volunteers. And this is because the CRO can request for this list, and you have to provide it within 6 hours of the request. Existing policies. So it is the responsibility of the candidate to ensure that all campaign plans, materials, advertisements, and everything else conforms to all policies and regulations of the USC and university, and this includes King's University College, Brescia, and Huron, and student residences, and with all municipal, provincial, and federal laws. Campaign displays and the distribution of literature on campus are also subject to the requirements of the facilities management and/or reservations office and/or housing. But this last part will be mostly irrelevant for this elections because you are not going to be allowed to go into residences or the university. Benefits acquired by virtue of office. So candidates and campaign volunteers are not entitled to use in their campaign any service, tangible benefits, or resources conferred on them by virtue of holding any position in any organization. This includes, but is not limited to, mailing lists, office space, supplies, advertising space, and other services. So this is regardless of, like, it could be any organization. It doesn't have to be just the USC or, a club. But if you have access to something because of your position and other candidates don't have access to those same resources because they are not they don't hold the same title as you cannot use those resources for the purposes of campaigning. Candidates shall not solicit the aid or endorsement of any USC staff or executive member for the purposes of campaigning, but this does not include consultations for the sake of creating a platform. Approval of campaign materials and activities. So all printed campaign materials and advertisements require approval by the CRO before you can post or print it wherever you need to. Campaign material shall only be approved in the immediate lead up to and during the campaign period. So if your campaign materials will not be printed, they do not need to be approved by the CRO. And you can find the artwork upload form up on the website. So in terms of events, I'm assuming as candidates, you are going to be hosting some sort of events. All candidates are required to submit an event proposal to the CRO for approval for any USC elections related events, including but not limited to campaign launch parties or campaign socials. And this shall be a requirement for events both on and off campus. But I'm assuming, or most events or all events need to be virtual this year. So the rule of thumb is that any event, like an event, is anything designed to gather students together for the purposes of campaigning. And this includes Zoom events for which you're going to need approval by the CRO. If you're unsure, either just ask either Julia or I, or just submit a proposal for the event. And proposals shall be submitted to the CRO for approval at least 48 hours prior to the intended event. And so this is how the event proposal looks, the form looks, and this is also on our website. Pre-campaigning. Candidates are not permitted to distribute campaign materials prior to the campaign period. Prior to the campaign period, the maximum number of campaign volunteers a candidate is permitted to have on their team is limited to 50, and you cannot have any open social media campaigns, pages, events. Everything must be unpublished and private till the campaign period starts. However, you are permitted to assemble your team, conduct interviews for platform development. Cross-campaigning. Cross-campaigning in any election is prohibited. Each candidate must maintain separate finances and produce unique campaign materials. What this basically means is that you cannot share campaign materials or finances with other campaign teams. To be honest, I don't know why you would want to do that, but you definitely cannot. Campaigning during the voting period. While the polls are open, candidates and their volunteers are permitted to continue campaigning as normal according to the rules, except all campaigning shall be prohibited within the sightline of all designated polling stations. And no candidate, campaign volunteer, or any other party shall cause a willful disturbance or interfere or attempt to interfere with an individual's right to vote or coerce or attempt to coerce a vote through the use of intimidation. This should be very straightforward, guys. You cannot force somebody, you cannot interfere in people's votes, because that's going to get you in trouble. Candidates and their campaign volunteers shall not establish their own polling stations to solicit votes. So, since we are on the topic of campaigning, I want to remind you guys that there is no in-person campaigning allowed this year. And this is something that the EGC has decided, but on top of that, in Ontario, there is a stay-at-home order, which requires you to stay at home unless necessary for essential services like going to work or groceries or whatever the government has as listed as essential. So on top of that, on top of the EGC asking you to not do any in-person campaigning, if you are found doing so, you will also be breaking the law. So I just want to put that out there. And any sort of events and gatherings have been prohibited in Ontario right now. So campaign materials and branding. Candidates in all elections, presidential and divisional, shall refrain from the use of the USC or university logo or any other USC or university copyrighted material or image in any of your campaign materials, whether that's printed or online, anywhere. And candidates shall not be able to declare their campaign color as the color purple or any color that can reasonably be mistaken for the color purple. And campaign material cannot contain copyrighted material or images without the consent of the copyright holder. Campaign materials may not depict images of alcohol or drug use. And all campaign material must not be in violation of the UWO Code of Student Conduct or the USC Community Standards Policy.
Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly reference the affiliate campuses. So for all of you at any affiliate campus, I just want to let you know that you have your own CRO. Of course, you can come to me, but you have a list of CROs here that you may also contact if you have any questions about specific affiliate elections. Okay, now we're going to go into campaign finances. So this is a chart of campaign spending limits. So presidential candidates, $1,500, faculty presidents, and then divisional candidates, so any counselors. This is your spending limit amount. So breaking down what the campaign spending limit is, it'll be your expenses plus your contributions. So what does that mean? Your expenses are costs incurred for goods, privileges, or services. So anything that you personally pay for. Advertising, if you pay for some kind of domain name, a Snapchat or Facebook filter, some kind of stationery would all be considered an expense. Contributions are different. Contributions are things that were donated or given to you as a candidate. However, even though they were given to you for free, you have to evaluate them at fair market value. So if you ordered campaign signs for some reason and they would cost $300 for you to buy, but they give it to you for nothing, you still have to record it as a contribution for $300 towards your spending limit. You can't accept cash as a contribution. And when you do receive a contribution, you must just provide some contact info for who contributed it to your campaign. Fair market value is the price that's available to a regular person who approaches a company who sells the product. So just the price that anyone would get for one thing. So if a business agrees to discount your $100 campaign t-shirt, then the fair market value is still $100, even though you may have gotten this 20% off deal with it. You still have to make sure that you are writing it down as the price that any person would get for that product. This is a list of acceptable expenses and contributions. So supplies for a campaign, printing costs, promotional attire, food, advertising, all that good stuff. This year there'll be no bar cover, but if you run again some other time when all this is over, you can get bar cover and wristbands. I just want to emphasize that you can't do anything with alcohol directly involved. So alcohol itself is not an acceptable expense or contribution, but like free cover would be one. And then these are unacceptable ones. So alcohol, alcoholic vouchers, any kind of drugs, or any type of long-term item. So if someone gives you a new laptop, you can't write that down because it's not specifically for your campaign. You're probably going to keep the laptop after the election is over. Special considerations. So even if you got something but you didn't use the whole thing, you still need to write down the cost for the entire object. Candidates will have to declare expenses and contributions for making campaign material and media available to the public. So again, domain names, paid advertising. So if you paid for a Snapchat filter, something like that, make sure you're just writing that down. If a professional, including one of your campaign volunteers, would normally charge for a service, photography could be an example, that would be considered a contribution. If a friend who's not normally in the business of providing the service to others at a fee performs a service for you, then you will not have to expense their time. So it just depends if they're actually professional and they're doing you a favor, or they normally provide things for free. Tracking expenses. So you need to use the campaign expense tracker, and original receipts must be submitted. So I kind of said this earlier, but your tracking expenses will be due at the end of the campaign period. So, the voting period. So once voting is over or the voting day is through, you're going to have to submit your campaign tracking expenses. If you submit them late, you'll lose 5% of eligible reimbursement a day. This is a summary tab, so this is just an example of what the tracking expenses might look like there. And then this is what you're going to use to record an expense. So again, you're going to have your receipt so you can track all of this stuff down. Your reimbursement is going to be your bond. So whatever you paid for your bond, whether it was $300, $50, whatever it was, and your eligible expenses minus any fines you may have incurred during the campaign period. The reimbursement checks will be available not at the USC front desk, no later than February 16th. So that's 2 weeks after. I'm sure I will update you guys where the reimbursement checks will be available, whether we're mailing them to you, but they won't be at the USC front desk. Only eligible reimbursements will be given if you have a verified original receipt. If you fall under one of those non-acceptable expenses, but you track it, it can lead to penalties and no reimbursement. Items that have been flagged will be brought to our finance committee and they'll look over them again. And then again, a running list of acceptable items is available on our new website. And if you need to know where that is, I will type it in the comments after I'm done presenting. All right, I'm gonna go into the violations procedure now. So all allegations will be received through an online submission form. You can't email me violations directly. Every violation that you decide is worth submitting has to be done through this form that can be found on our website. Any and all allegations have to be submitted to the committee no later than 4 hours after the close of balloting. So on February 2nd, balloting closes at 8 p.m. All of your violations have to be submitted before midnight. So 11:59 p.m. on the 2nd is your last chance to submit an allegation. The names of individuals making allegations are not released to candidates, the media, or the public unless you break the law, and then they will be released. Names shall only be required to allow the committees to process the allegation. You will not be informed of alleged violations till we have verified the legitimacy and believe there is enough evidence to conduct a hearing. So we don't conduct hearings for every single violation if it doesn't warrant one. And you will be informed of a hearing no fewer than 6 hours in advance with a written summary of the allegation prepared by the manager of investigations and a copy of the findings of the investigation. At the hearing, so if your violation goes through and we decide there needs to be a hearing to hear more about what happened, we'll redact the names or other identifying information of people involved in the investigation. If you are unable to attend the hearing yourself, you may send a proxy, but please just note that you have to let us know who the proxy is at least 1 hour before the hearing. An audio of the hearing will be kept with the manager of investigations as part of the investigation file and shall not be released to any members of the public with the exception of the USC Appeals Board in the event of an appeal. If you do not attend a hearing and you do not send a proxy, we will assume that you have nothing else to share with us and the case will go directly to deliberations by the committee. This is just what we use to evaluate violations. So we make decisions based on these 6 things. So the scope, so how it may have influenced the range of students, the degree of influence, so how much strength the violation had in creating an unfair advantage, the degree of intent, whether the violation was intentionally done maliciously or whether the candidate in question lacked the intent to take reasonable precautions to prevent the violation from occurring, the degree of repetition, if you've done the same thing over and over again, something that may have been a lesser penalty before could become a major penalty. That would kind of fall under like intent to undermine the committee. The degree of legality of action, whether it breaks any municipal, federal, or provincial law, and the degree of obstruction. So whether at any point in time during the investigation, the candidate in question attempted to impede the committee's ability to investigate the violation. So if found guilty, I kind of mentioned this a second ago, but we have 2 types of violations. They are lesser violations or severe violations. Lesser violations do not warrant disqualification, but we will issue an official warning. However, if you break a severe violation, you are immediately disqualified from taking part in your election. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are a list of lesser violations. So if you do not adhere to bylaw 2, you make a lot of frivolous complaints, you break fair play, if you don't maintain separate finances, so that'd be like the cross-campaigning thing, if you use your benefit acquired by office, if you campaign in any form in the USC office, which you absolutely should not be doing right now at all, ever, but that might actually fall under a major violation. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about in-person campaigning in a second, but make sure you stay away from that. If you use the university logo, if you use the color purple, if you violate this part of the bylaw for distributing campaign material, and if you solicit voters. Okay, severe violations. So failing or ceasing to meet candidate eligibility requirements. So if you don't come to this meeting, for example, there's some things that are considered a severe violation. If you act in contempt of the committee, so that could be, again, if you keep violating the same lesser violation a bunch of times, we'd consider you in contempt of the committee. If you interfere with voters' ballots, procedures, or counting, if you solicit someone's UW login information and vote for them, if you are in willful violation of bylaw 2, that kind of goes back to contempt if you keep doing the same thing. If you fail to comply with the restrictions of off-campus campaigning, or you violate any municipal, provincial, or federal law. So that kind of brings me to in-person campaigning again. We are in a state of emergency right now. We have a stay-at-home order. If you do in-person campaigning, you are violating a municipal law. So we would consider that a major violation. Please, 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 please keep in mind the health and safety of the Western community. Please keep in mind the safety of the London community. It's really important that you guys follow this. I know it's tough. I know it is kind of a bummer that you can't campaign like everyone else has every other year, but it is so important that we keep in mind that the safety of everyone around us. So we consider in-person campaigning a major violation this year. So I would really advise against that.
Yes, and just to clarify what could be considered in-person campaigning, this is how I would look at it. If it requires you to leave your house,
I think she may have been frozen. I'll finish the anecdote.
it's in-person campaigning. That's just in-person campaigning. Is this not?
I think she might be paused again. I'm actually going to finish the anecdote this time. There is not one thing I can imagine for any type of campaigning that would require you to leave your home. I don't think you're going to be campaigning at the grocery store, and if you were, still violate the rules. Doesn't help you get groceries. So again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. If you have any questions, again, you can ask at the end. So we'll go back to appeals. So candidates may appeal decisions made by the elections committee.
Am I back?
You are. I finished your anecdote though. Okay. All right. So if you decide that the EGC has made the worst decision ever, you are allowed to appeal the decisions. So then it will move to be under the purview of the appeals board. If they deem it under their jurisdiction, the appeal will go to a different hearing. Okay, here's my information again. If you need to write that down, please do. I just want to also let you guys know that Indigenous Awareness Week is going to be February 1st through 6th, so that'll be the week that we're voting in elections. If you would like more details about any events that are going to be going on that week, please visit this website. It'll be at the indigenous.uwo.ca. I would really encourage you guys to check that out, especially during Indigenous Awareness Week. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you and see whatever questions that you might have. So let me put you all in gallery mode. Does anybody have any questions about anything I talked to you about today? Okay. Omar, I see that you've raised your hand, so you can go first.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So two questions. One, so would it technically be breaking the rules if, say, we were in a club meeting and we just informed the other members of a club that we're running for a certain position?
Are you doing club meetings in person?
No, on Zoom.
No, yeah. After a campaign period starts, you can't do it now, but
But that's
yeah,
not abusing the office of the club, or it's not breaking that rule.
I will double check and email you about that afterwards, okay?
Okay. And then my second question was, so we're not allowed to do any in-person events. If we live in residence, or have friends that are volunteers for us that live in residence, can we put up posters in residence or on our doors or things like that?
No, we are gonna keep it just in line for everyone that there'll be no printing of posters in res.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let me just see. Jack?
For cross campaigning, would that include like if you wanted to endorse another candidate that was running for a different position, or any
No.
sort of like share it, like just as long as you're not sharing their material or finance stuff or anything like that?
Exactly. So just make sure that you are keeping all of your materials, all of your finances separate from theirs, but that's really all that cross campaigning kind of refers to.
Thanks.
Omar, do you have another question? I just want to make sure that I'm okay. Siddharth?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what the guidelines are around on campaigning on like different forms of social media or like in specific groups.
Yeah, sorry, you just want more information on like what you're allowed to do on social media?
Yeah, yep.
Again, social media is going to be such a massive part of campaigning this year. I understand that. It's kind of hard to say, like, if you want to share, your campaign on a separate campaign account, that's great. It's really, again, it's going to be kind of different. If you have any specific questions about social media, contact me. Again, it's going to be new for a lot of things this year. I know there's going to be a lot of really innovative ideas. So if you have specific questions about social media, email me. But yeah, I think a lot of things on social media will be okay. It just kind of depends what you're thinking.
Just one thing I'd like to add is that if it's a group or like a messenger chat, a Facebook group, Snapchat group, whatever, if you have access to it because you hold a specific position or title, then it could be considered benefits acquired by virtue of office. But obviously we can't give one answer right now. It would depend on the specific situation.
Okay, Lauren?
Hello. I was just wondering if you end up not spending anything for your campaign, especially because most things are online and don't cost anything, do you have to submit the form still and just fill out that you haven't spent any money, or you don't need to fill out the form if you don't spend money?
I would fill it out anyway, maybe just for our purposes of seeing it, but again, it'll be super easy to fill out, I think, just putting 0 on it. Okay, Madison.
Yeah, I had kind of a question that kind of goes off of Omar's question regarding like sort of associations that you might be like associated with. If they repost your material, like is that allowed or not? Like even if you don't like request for it.
Are you an executive of that, or are you just a?
Yeah, like, if you're like an executive of that club or association and they repost your material, even if you don't ask, is that still like a violation?
I'm gonna write that again. I'm gonna email you about that, or I'm gonna write that down though. I don't want to I don't want to say something that could be wrong and get your hopes up or do something that would hurt your campaign. So let me look into that and I will get back to you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Oliver?
Hello. So I have a question. The first one is that where can we find the link of the recording of today's video so I can look it over? And mhm.
I think Melissa can answer that. Is that just going to be on our website?
Yeah, I'll get it added to the website once the meeting is done today.
Okay,
So it'll be on the uscelections.ca.
okay, thank you. And another question is that just to clarify who are eligible to vote, because I'm currently in Social Science Student Council, are members in there allowed to vote, or only staff in USA cannot vote? Am I saying?
Like vote for president?
No, I mean for I'm applying for counselor.
Oh, okay, sorry. So you're applying for counselor of the USC or for a specific faculty?
Yeah.
Sorry. If it's for a faculty position, only those in your faculty will be able to vote.
No, I'm actually running for USC counselor.
Here, Melissa, were you saying something? I didn't mean to step in on you.
I was just
I
so
think
Oliver, even as a USC counselor, you're still representing the social science faculty, and only social science students can vote for you.
Okay, also okay. All right, that's my questions for now. Thanks for answering.
Okay. Sarah Emily.
Hi. So I just wanted to double check. So the slide about campaign materials. So only those that are going to be like physically printed need to be approved by you beforehand.
Exactly. Correct. So if you are not printing something physically, then you do not need to ask me to approve it.
Okay, so like Instagram posts, Facebook, things like that. Okay, amazing. Okay. And then I just had a question too about group chats that one might be a part of, for example, class group chats, not by virtue of your position, but by virtue of the fact that you are taking that class. Would be like discussing your campaign in those group chats also be considered a violation?
I don't think we have anything in our policy, but so I would say probably not. I can look into that more for you. I'll write that. I'm gonna write that down. I think I'll be emailing a lot of you, but I don't think so.
I think that would most likely not be a violation because that's not it's not because you're part of like you hold a position or because you're part of that organization.
Thank you.
Okay, Jack, did you have another question?
Yeah, I have a question on behalf of a candidate with wonky Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So the question is, are we allowed to mention if we hold certain positions in clubs during our campaign? Like if you are an exec on a team and during your campaign, you mention like, you know, your past experiences and your involvement on campus, are you allowed to reference your prior roles with, as long as it's not like within those club spaces or like promoted by that club page? Like if I was like, in the past, I was the exec comms of blank.
But not to like that club? Or are you just saying like in reference to the full campaign that you're running?
The full campaign, like say on my campaign website, I was like, my previous experience, I'm this of this club, etc.
Yeah, I think that would be totally fine.
Thank you.
Okay, Taylor?
Hi, I actually have two questions. So the first one is, let's say someone, like one of your friends posts a link to maybe your Instagram page or your campaign website. Must they be counted as volunteers, or are they just someone who like appreciated your platform and wanted to share that?
So the 50 volunteers, I believe, only applies to the pre-campaign. Your friends can share and support you.
Okay, excellent. And my second question is, say you're making a campaign website and you already own a domain, you can use, and so it's free for you to make a website. Must you cite that as an expense, or because you already own it, it's not considered an expense?
I will double check that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. Siddharth, do you have another question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if we can personally message people and like just tell them that, you know, like this is the election and that it's happening, and like kind of explain just what you're doing.
Just like texting your own friends?
Like, I mean, also people who like perhaps we don't know personally, but like just like who are gonna be part of the electorate.
It depends how you got those people's information.
Like if I was texting them on like social media or sending them an email, or like what works.
And you already know them and like they know that you have their contact info?
I mean, yeah, I assumed because it's on like it'll be on social media.
I
I
think
think
sorry,
I
go
think as long as they have consented to it, like they're okay with you telling them that information, then it's fine.
Okay, but how do we get like how is that consent established before we communicate it? Like,
As in, you cannot, so for example, you cannot go around, like you would not, if you obtain an email list from somewhere, you can't just be sending emails to those people, or so like if there's somebody, if you're friends with somebody on Facebook,
mhm.
but let's say you haven't, chatted with them in a while, but since you're friends, you can send them that person a message because they know that you are their friend on Facebook, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Essentially, you just can't spam people, if that makes any sense.
Okay, Ethan?
Thanks, Julia. I just had a question about the extent of the no purple rule. So does that include everything in the poster? Say, for example, if a candidate was wearing like a purple mask or like a purple shirt underneath a sweater, would that count?
So are you saying like you're a volunteer of someone else's campaign who has a different campaign color?
No, I'm saying, let's say there's a social media post of a candidate and that candidate is wearing like a purple t-shirt underneath a sweater or like a purple mask. Would that count as a violation of the no purple rule?
I would say no. I mean, you'd really have to establish that that was intentionally done.
It's the campaign color is more so for your official campaign color, not like the hat you're wearing or something like that. So for example, presidential candidates declare an official campaign color, whatever that may be. That official color cannot be purple, but like you're mentioning, if there's like a square in your graphic that's purple, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Zohaib, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you
Please
got that
correct.
right.
Okay.
So my question is like for online gatherings, like where's the line? Like if I'm just like in a group chat, does that need approval? Or if I'm just like having a call with like 15 of my friends, like does that need approval? So where's the line for that?
Again, if it's your friends and you're not doing it, you're not an executive in a club, you're just on a talk with your friends, that's fine. You can share your election with that kind of stuff. You just don't want to be as like a head member of something or an executive of something, or you have access to a mailing list that they don't know you have access to. That kind of stuff would be crossing that line.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about that as in like the approval process for like virtual events, because you guys said that for any like virtual thing like Zoom calls, like that needs to be approved beforehand.
Yeah, so if you know that you're holding an event, are you just saying like you want to be like an official event, you're just like happen to be talking to your friends and you bring it up? Yeah, that's fine. As long as your intent if your intent is to spread campaign material or to promote people to vote in the campaign or take part in the campaign, then I would ask that you upload an event proposal. But if you just happen to be chatting with people and it comes up, you wouldn't have to establish an event proposal. Okay, Jingwen.
Hi, everyone. So I have a few questions. I have about 3. So number 1, it kind of relates back to Madison's question in terms of friends who might be on faculty councils. And if we're interested in having like a friend who isn't currently holding like a executive position or presidential position on our faculty council, does that count as like a violation if they were to partake in our campaign?
So sorry, you have a friend who is on a council or a club that you're on, but they want to help in your campaign?
Yeah, so, and they're not an executive like member of that council, because I was reading through the slides as you were presenting, and I think that popped up as like one of the more specific details as to like what we can't do as part of our campaign. If that makes sense.
Yes. Are you an exec of that club or council?
I'm not an exec, no.
Then
but I do hold a position that's not an executive position. It's very specific, I know.
I'm gonna write it down.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. Again, I don't want to give out information to a group of 80 people and then have it be totally wrong. And so I just want to make sure I'm consistent in the messaging for all of this stuff. So I will contact you about that.
Okay, sounds good. And I just have 2 more questions. They're shorter ones. So one of which is in relevance to social media events, and one of which would be perhaps like a Q&A, like live, for example. Would that be considered under like an event per se?
I would say so. You're doing the Q&A, I feel like, in an endeavor to your campaign, like to extend your campaign. So I would say yes, do an event proposal for that.
Okay, sounds good. And the last one be for like one-on-one like drop-in consultations. Like for example, if you would have like, you know, a time left out for campaigning, I suppose, and people can come in on their own accord, would that count as well?
So you're almost like hosting an office hours. So you're like setting out a time for people to come in and chat with you one-on-one.
Exactly.
About your campaign. I would say yes, only because I know you're saying it's one-on-one, but a bunch of people could come to it.
That's true.
So I would say yes, I would submit an event proposal for that too.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Hyacinth.
Hi, so my question was about like getting your team together essentially. So in terms of that, who can actually be on my team? Like, is there any restrictions to people who can't be on my team? Or if I'm trying to gather my team, can I post about it in like club meetings or like sorority meetings?
So you're trying to recruit for people to be on your own campaign team?
Yes.
I feel like, oh, Conan, you answer. I feel like you're about to say something.
One restriction just off the top of my head is any UN executive, coordinator, or intern, or AVP. They cannot be on your team, nor can they endorse you. In terms of choosing your team, you can post about it. You can find it however you think is best.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, Emily, did you have another question?
Yeah, I did actually. I just have 2. So if you're attending an AGM, like a club AGM, in the context that you are an executive, but you're just attending as that executive, do you need to disclose, like during a campaign period, do you need to disclose that you're also running for a USC councilor, or just leave that entirely and just only approach it from the role of the exec?
I don't think you disclose it. I would just say, like, if you're hosting an AGM, you're just that exec. Probably just keep it at that.
Okay, cool. And then with regards to group chats, such as like a team group chat, for example, a soft team group chat, would like kind of letting know, would like for the same kind of purpose as like, for example, like putting it in the group chat that you're, class group chat that you're running, are you not allowed to put that in a soft group chat because technically you only have that position because you're a soft?
I would say yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Callista?
Yeah, for club endorsements, if that happens, are you allowed to use the club logo? It's been done in the past, but technically it is copyright of the USC under like our club's policy. So that's what I was just clarifying for club endorsements. When those happen, is the logo permitted? And if that logo also has purple in it, what can we like black and white it? Like just some questions about that.
That's a good question. Again, it has been done in the past. I know that like when you get an endorsement, the club itself may use their own logo. I think it depends, like when the club endorses you and they post their own logo, I think that's fine. You know, it's like it's their club. Are you saying like as far as you or your campaign team sharing that?
Sharing it or putting on a website or making our own post about it too.
Because it would be originally coming from that club, I think that's okay. Would be my stance on that. I don't know if I could find anything in like the bylaw or the policy to refute that information. I would say it's okay. I'm gonna write it down anyway just to be safe and make sure, but I would say it's probably fine. Okay. Sarah Emily. Oh wait, Sarah Emily, is your hand still up? Okay. Omar.
Hey, I just wanted to like clarify Ethan's question from a while ago. So if we're, for example, like making a poster or an Instagram post or something, are we allowed to be wearing anything with the Western logo on it? Like, can I wear this sweater, for example, in a photo?
So no.
Okay.
No, you would not be allowed to wear that sweater, mainly because it might give it the illusion that you're that USC or whatever you're wearing the sweater for is endorsing you, and that's what we don't want.
So I can't wear that sweater during any campaign events, during any like Instagram photos, anything like that for my campaign.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Zuzu.
Hi. When we are making our teams, does it have to be internal, so like students at Western, or can I look externally for that recruitment process?
I want to say internally, but I don't know if we have a exact rule against volunteers coming from outside the university.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We can get back to you on that, but I think it should be fine.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
External volunteers, we've never had that come up before. That's quite interesting. So we'll get back to you.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, Jack.
This is a fairly contextual question. I'm so sorry, so please bear with me. A few questions ago, it was mentioned that we can't receive endorsements from like, certain USC exec members, including coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
With this context specifically, so I plan to like seek an endorsement from a person who is like on the Arts and Humanities Council in a non-exec role, non-voting, because their role will be directly affected by my campaign, but that person also happens to be a coordinator. But their endorsement would have nothing to do with their coordinator role or on a coordinator platform, and they are the only role that is being affected by that part of my campaign, which is why I was seeking out like a statement from that person.
I think it still has to be no. Conan, you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. I think because it's just as simple as the fact that CIA have been asked not to endorse anyone. And so I don't think it would matter if they're endorsing it from a different position because they still hold that coordinator position.
Okay.
Okay, Zohaib?
Yeah, so a few questions ago, somebody brought up club endorsements, and I'm kind of confused as to how they work. Like, if a club is endorsing you, you had to be kind of like involved in some capacity with that club. Then, in that sense, you're kind of like leveraging that power, which is kind of like unfair to other candidates. So, how does that work, like club endorsements, and what are the rules for them?
So if you can't be a current, like being a current exec on the club, but if you've been on the club and you have connections to the club and they offer and or you ask, that's okay.
Is like a director position considered an executive?
On your club, do you like, I think it would be specific. I think some clubs would consider that an exec, some might not. It might just depend. I'm not sure.
It's like the bottom of the hierarchy, basically. Yeah, like just one step above the competitor.
I think that would depend on the club specifically. You have to use your own judgment in that and maybe consult with the club executives, those that are hired to you, if you are considered an exec, and maybe they can help you out with that.
Okay.
Okay. Maisha?
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah. Okay, so I am a little lost about this clubs thing, so I just wanted to clarify for a second time, maybe third time, I don't know. So let me understand, like club endorsements, if I'm not on that club, or if I was in the club in the past, that's allowed.
Yes.
But if I'm on the club right now, I cannot post in their group chats or any kind of page.
Are you an exec on that club?
If I'm an exec, yes.
I think we would consider that probably benefits.
And
however, I would probably say yes, but I feel like I can double check that. I don't know if it's different for club. I don't know. I think no, probably. Conan, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think as long if you're a club exec, then and you do hold that title, that position, so that would be considered no. But if you have connections with clubs, like you said, or you've been on it in the past, that's okay. But being an exec, that does give you an kind of an opportunity that other people don't have, so it's considered unfair.
And like, just to clarify here, I think someone else brought this up too, that the fact that if someone else from the club just happens to be a friend or like endorse my campaign, for example, and whether they post it on their social media or the club's social media, would that be allowed?
So that's with you still being the exec?
Like, the thing is, I understand the exec part, but also as a friend. What if they're like a really close friend? I understand the bylaws, but like, given it's such a different situations and we cannot campaign in person, we cannot see anyone, I am just wondering.
So if that friend, I think if that friend were to, because when you talk about endorsements, you're talking about the club itself.
Okay.
right? So if they post from the club account, that would be considered endorsement. But if they were to post from their personal account, that would be kind of looked at as, oh, they posted as your friend.
Okay, and I'm taking up so much of your time, but another thing, the last thing I want to clarify is the fact that I think Sarah Emily brought up too. It's like if the fact that you're in a group chat or it's in a club page, not from the club, but from a person that someone just shares it, is that okay?
Sorry, so like somebody else just
happened to share it like in a group, like a Facebook group or with a lot of people on it, but like not from a club or not from a specific constituency.
if they don't have that, like if they're not a candidate, and then it's okay, because if you're not asking them to do it. But if just somebody random just happens to post it in some group, then it's all right.
Okay, and Julia, would it be okay like if you send the email out to like everyone, maybe like with all those clarifications? Okay, perfect, thank you.
What I'm gonna do is get a lot of information, because I realize this is a lot of your guys' questions now is going to be on club endorsements, and I see a lot of hands have gone up about club endorsements. If your question is about clubs, I am going to create a list and an actual statement looking into everything, looking into exact positions on clubs. I feel like this is getting kind of tangled, and I feel like things are getting messed up right now, and I don't want that at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get actual information and I release it on our website. And when I send you guys, I'll probably send you a copy of the slideshow that we did today. I'm also going to include either this document then or link it in the email to our website where it will be. Does that sound good? So for everyone that has any club questions, put your hand down for now. And I'm going to release this statement. And then if you have more questions after, you can email me and I will answer them as best as I can. Does that sound good? Okay. Hyacinth.
Sorry, I still have a question about like getting a team together. If I'm in a club and I'm trying to recruit someone from the club, and they're still like an executive member of the club, and so am I, like, is that okay?
To be on your campaign team?
Yeah.
I would probably say that's okay.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay, Nika?
Okay, this is like kind of a clubs question, but not really, so I apologize. But I just want clarification on like if a testimonial from an individual person who happens to be an exec on a club, like where that falls, because like they're endorsing you, but it's from an individual perspective.
I think that's where a lot of this like confusion is coming from, is that you have personal relationships with people who are also execs on clubs. I think that's a lot of confusion is coming there. I will get that information out. I just can't do it this second. So
yeah,
I'm so sorry. I know it's frustrating. I think messaging has to be consistent. I think the only way to make it fair is if everyone gets the information, and I don't want to spew information that's false. I don't want to confuse anyone. So I will create a document for all of you. I will try to outline all of this as clearly and as succinctly as possible. But yeah, does anybody have any other questions? Okay, Zohaib?
Can we like endorse other candidates in like other faculties or like my friends?
I think yes. I think just again, like, don't share your materials with them, don't cross your finances with them, but yes. Jesse?
Hi, I just had one question regarding the list of eligible candidates. Like, when will we know?
Oh, yeah. So we have someone working on our website who will release all of that information. So all information relating to everyone running will be released on our website likely by tomorrow. So uscelections.ca, you'll be able to see candidates. Also, if you haven't sent me a picture and a statement, please do that ASAP. Ethan?
Hi, Julia. This is sort of related to the question before Jesse's, but for endorsements for people in the same faculty running for different positions, say I'm running for counselor and I endorse someone running for president or senate of the Social Science Council, would that also count? Would that be allowed?
I think yes still, right, Kanan?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. What was it?
Just if candidates running for different positions in the same faculty can endorse each other.
Okay, so two people that are running for the same position, them
Different.
endorsing each other?
Different positions in the same faculty. So someone's running for Senate counselor, someone's running for social site president.
I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I think the same thing as before. Like, just make sure you're keeping everything separate. That's what we want to emphasize the most.
Right.
Thank you.
Of course. Maisha, did you have another question? I just want to make sure I'm not skipping over you.
Yeah. Just a like small question. I think I sent the picture with a Western shirt to you. Can I just send an email to you again with a different picture?
100%.
Perfect. Thank you.
Siddharth?
Yeah, I had a specific question about the position I'm running for. So on the list of vacancies, it says like HBK Senate, like for Senate, it says like there are 2 positions. So is that like 2 for each affiliate or 2 for all of them?
I would believe for each, because every school would have to have their own representation.
Yeah, it's just the math is not, if that's the case, the math isn't right on the vacancy list.
Okay, I will double check on that.
Julia, it's 2 for all 3. I'm the current senator. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
2 for all 3.
Thank you. Okay, Riley says it's 2 for all 3. Okay, Nicholas?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to double check if we did send you our candidate statement and headshot just through the nomination form that we had to submit, that's fine. We didn't have to submit anything separately, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Maisha, did you have another question?
No, never mind.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Jesse?
Hi, sorry, last question. Just regarding who's considered a volunteer on your campaign. So would that include anyone who's sharing any like piece of your campaign on their own like social media platform?
No.
Okay.
So just who like is helping you like directly reach out, but your friend, like if you just have a random friend you sharing your stuff, then no, they don't have to be considered on your volunteer list.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Omar?
I was just wondering, so is there going to be somewhere where we can see like all the candidates, especially the people that we're running against? And if like say there's 3 positions for a council position and only 2 or 3 people apply, are you automatically acclaimed or do you still have to be voted through?
So I believe you, like it is acclaimed, but I believe you still have to be voted through, right?
But it's just if people only have one option to vote for, then
right,
that's going to be the one who gets it.
And so will we be able to see who we're running against tomorrow, or like where do we go for that?
Yeah, you should be able to see it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
That will be on our website, uscelections.ca. We'll put it in the chat.
Okay, Jack?
Just to sort of touch on the question around acclaimed roles, if you are like say running for a faculty presidency and you are running uncontested, you aren't necessarily acclaimed. You will have to go through a vote of confidence for voting members that are on the council. So you don't just like win automatically. You have to like still run your campaign and ensure that all voting members within the council, because then it'll be internal, still think that you will be a viable candidate and vote for you through. Like last year, there were a few that didn't get voted through even though they're running uncontested. So you do still have to go through that process. It's just not you versus someone else.
Right.
So what would then happen in the event that there's an unfilled position at the end of the voting period?
That's all internal. Like if it's a faculty position, that's internal to your council.
Okay, thanks.
Jack, sorry, did you want to add one more thing?
Yeah, again, we can speak to this last year that happened in the arts and humanities faculty. So essentially we just had an election that was like about a month later where they just went through that, and then that time it was contested and we just had another election. So it'd just be the same process, except it wouldn't be happening at the same time as the rest of the USC.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Okay, Zohaib?
Wait, so how does that vote of confidence like work like internally? Like do like randomly executives in the USC like just decide like if they like me or not? Like I'm still confused about that specifically.
Jack, you could answer.
Again, and I'm only speaking to my knowledge of like faculty councils, but it would be anyone who is a voting member on council. So that would be departmental representatives, VP, the president, and they would vote because you would still be giving a speech and run your campaign to council, and it would be internal. It wouldn't be, so it would, like if you were running for say social science president or counselor, it wouldn't be like the USC deciding if they like you or not. You would be presenting your campaign and have the debate period with your council that you're running in. And then they would decide based on what you present to them.
Okay, Claudia?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I just had a really quick question about two questions. So for sophing, just to reiterate and just double check, I just wanted to make sure that if we are, say, in a group chat with some of our frosh, we're not allowed to say like, hey, check out, like elections are happening, check out my platform.
I think you can say like check out that elections are happening. I think check out, look at my personal platform. You might be teetering on the benefit of your position, but I think you can say like, hey, elections are going on.
And also for HBK Senate, I was just wondering, so since we are representing technically all of the affiliates, then we can also campaign to all of the affiliates, right? Like we don't have to just campaign to say Huron if we're a Huron student.
I'm not 100% sure, but that would make sense to me, as you would be representing all three of them. You wouldn't want to like leave someone out. Like if three people are all from Huron but are running to represent all of them, that would make sense. But I'm gonna double check for you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions? I'm trying to look through the chat right now in case I missed anything. If you need to change your headshot picture, please email me ASAP. And again, list of candidates and stuff will be on our website hopefully by tomorrow. So just keep a lookout for that. Club questions, I will try my best to get out as soon as possible. I promise I won't keep you guys waiting long on that information. I know it's something that a ton of you are looking for. It just kind of teeters on two different policies, club policy, UGC policy. So again, I'm just gonna double check on that and I will get it out to you ASAP. Does anybody have any other questions? And sorry, the recording for the meeting will be on our website. Anything else? If you have any other questions that didn't get answered today, please feel free to email me. If you didn't get down my email, I'm gonna write it in the group chat right now. But if you have anything else that you didn't get to today and you need to know, please email me there. I will be more than happy to answer. But if there's nothing else, I hope you all have a wonderful night and thank you so much again for coming to this.